Hendrik here, bringing you another Business Freedom Conversation post. So this is a novel idea. Interest rates go up because of our own bad behavior. So Moody's is looking at putting the U.S. government on a credit watch if we have a government shutdown and if we can't agree to a budget. But those are systemic effects from the problem that we're spending too much, that our government is borrowing $2 trillion a year and running it as a deficit. The other problem that's encroaching is that now at $33 trillion of debt, I think that's now 125 or 130% of our economy, maybe a little more, that debt service is equaling 14% of our tax revenues, and that's generally a point where austerity kicks into most governments. But remember, most governments are not like ours. Our currency is a reserve currency of the world. But what happens when people stop buying it because it's not rated as well or because we default due to a shutdown? Fascinating. Somehow, some way, we need to stop this profligate spending and borrowing. It's not going to lead to a positive result. And I think that's what those 21 congressmen are about that ousted McCarthy as the speaker. What does that mean to us? It means this could be fascinating, that interest rates are taken out of the hands of the Fed and governed by the market. That because people aren't buying bonds, the interest rates go up in a market because our credit rating, even the mighty U.S. credit rating, is not high enough to sustain this current level of interest rates, and they have to go up. And that usually means that spending will have to go down, and generally taxes go up. And I know taxes is a big concern of all of us small businessmen. So watch this 3-minute video from Yahoo Finance. It's really interesting, and it appears that we're on the threshold of having increased rates, but not by our own choice by the Fed, but by the market. So stay tuned. And we're also looking at huge tax increases in 2025 because the tax deductions that Trump put through and the tax rate decreases expire at the end of 2024, at the end of this next year. So if we engineer a financial crisis, you can almost guarantee they're going to look at you small business people and want the money out of you by raising your taxes. Certainly they're going to get away with a 20% small business deduction. That'll be huge. Look at how much more right there would increase your taxes by 20%. So anyhow, take a look at this. I think some difficult things are going on. In one way or another, we got to find a positive way out of this. This is Greg Andrick, the Business Freedom Conversation. I'll catch you on the next one.
If this does perhaps increase the risk of a government shutdown, do you think that also increases the risk of a Moody's downgrade?
Right. So we have been concerned that if we had seen a government shutdown in the current month, that Moody's may potentially put the U.S. on a credit ratings watch. The Monday before we were potentially going into a shutdown, so last Monday, Moody's actually did say that they may intentionally do so because of a government shutdown, because the credit rating agencies have been more focused on process rather than finances. And if this speakership vote, again, takes a long time, if we continue to see a lot of dysfunction, if the House is still not able to move forward any bill in the House to actually pass a budget, or maybe they are, but they can't pass anything that's actually going to be able to go through the Senate, that might put Moody's back into play and have them continue to think about whether or not they should put the U.S. on credit watch, again, particularly as we're looking at U.S. debt rising, net interest costs continuing to go up. And so that is a concern for us in particular. And the more dysfunction we see, we think that probability increases.
You know, and that seems to be more of a concern of markets as well, not just the Moody's, but the debt servicing costs that you referred to. And in your notes to us, you used a potential word to apply to the U.S. that I haven't seen in a long time, and that word is austerity. We have not seen either party really enact anything resembling true austerity in a very long time. Is there any actual potential for that?
Yeah, so we have been looking historically at what happens when you have rising net interest costs. And, you know, we've been in this period of fiscal stimulus for about 25 years now, where you could raise spending, you could cut taxes, and you weren't really seeing a big impact on U.S. debt servicing costs. That is all changing now after the inflation that we've had and the Fed's having to raise interest rates and now hold them there. So what we are now seeing is that we have net interest costs at above 14% of tax revenues. Historically, we have seen that that has been the threshold, that once you reach above that level, that is where the U.S. starts to move from a period of stimulus to a period of austerity. And so that is what we are looking to see. We don't think it's going to flip on immediately, but that is something that is now moving forward. The one thing that complicates this a little bit is the 2024 election. So policymakers tend to not want to impose fiscal austerity ahead of an election because people want to get reelected. But the issues are coming due. And so this is something that policymakers are going to have to take into consideration. They may not move before the 2024 election, but the other big issue is that when we get into 2025, we potentially have a new president, potentially have Biden still at the helm. There are all of the individual tax cuts that were passed as part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Those all expire at the end of 2025 too. So there'll also be another fiscal cliff coming that kind of adds into all of these dynamics.
Jeanette, thank you for joining us today. That was great. We appreciate it. That was Jeanette Lowe from Strategas.